Meditation. Meditation is, this is my attempt. It's an infinite subject. We're talking about infinity. It's very hard to nail that down. Meditation is to experience yourself, your own original nature, your Buddha nature, your enlightened state, your own divinity, your own purity, your own sanctity, your own holiness, your own freedom, and your own bliss. The whole idea behind meditating is so that you can experience who you really are, so that you can get in touch with your innermost level and charge yourself up with that, and hopefully retain some of that awareness during the time that you're not meditating. It's to get deep enough within and touch the source within deep enough so that someday when you come out of that meditation, you're still in the meditation. Everything is divinity. You behold God everywhere. You see everyone as instruments of the divine will, instruments of the divine light. You see everyone as souls. Meditation is to steady the mind, to still the mind. They say when you pray, you talk and God listens. When you meditate, what happens?
He talks.
God talks, and we listen. So meditation is a state of receptivity, a state of clarity, of openness. The mind is perfectly clear, the clear light, the white light. And the idea of why you should meditate to find God is because God has expressed himself, or God has expressed itself through you in the innermost chambers of your heart. The truth has expressed itself as you. You're it. And if you don't find it within you, you're not going to find it anywhere else. So we meditate to reveal our own nature to ourselves. Now there are various approaches to meditation. There are different angles on meditation. And if you travel over the world and you examine the different cultures, you'll see there are different approaches to meditation depending on where you are, depending on the region, the psychology, the makeup of the people, different places. In some places, everybody thinks that spirit or God or truth is outside. So that when you're meditating, what you're doing is you're inviting divine grace to come into you and inspire you and lift you up. And some people feel real comfortable with that idea. That's their basic idea. I'm sitting and God is coming down, kind of like sitting, in the beauty parlor. You put that hairdryer on, they apply that little thing, and now God is plugged in. Now God has touched me. I am, that's the God approach, the religion approach, which says, amazing grace, how sweet the sound. You saved a wretch like me. I'm such a loser, but I opened up in this way. God touched me. I'm joking around about it, but we've all had these moments when we've seen the reality of it. Like Kriyananda was saying before, you look out in the stars in space, or if you've ever been in a monsoon, you know that your power is really negligible in terms of the universe. And that's a very important technique, this God technique, this idea that there is a supreme being out there that's capable of taking you, even in your present state of confusion or of unhappiness, and like a spark, just illuminating you. And we've all had those kind of experiences, or we wouldn't be sitting here, inspiration from somewhere else. Now, is it really somewhere else, or is it really in you? There's another point of view which says, oh no, it's you, it's only you. There's nothing out there. You are it. This whole universe is just an expansion of your mind, an explosion of your mind. Everything is awareness, and you're just going through different psychological states. It's all just hallucinations against the clear background. That's the psychological approach, a little bit more of a Buddhist approach. The Buddhist approach says that your real Buddha nature is constantly being covered over by these projections and hallucinations. And that only when your mind settles down and calms down will you actually be able to perceive reality, the reality as it is. But that most of the time, most of us, we're in these neurotic and psychotic mind states, so we don't really see things as they are. So we meditate to still the mind, to calm the mind, so that we can experience reality as it is and experience who we are. And they don't talk about God so much. They don't talk about amazing grace or any of that stuff. It's hard work. Buddhism is hard work. You have to sit and meditate a lot. That's where the compassion comes in. So God doesn't enter into it much. It's you and your mind. That's it. And some people are very comfortable with that approach because after all, it's all in your mind, right? Then there's the mystical approach. They don't talk so much about your mind and your thoughts and neuroses and psychoses. Everything is energy. The whole universe is just positive and negative energy colliding and changing forms and making patterns and wheels and chakras and all of that. Your mind runs on prana. You have these subtle bodies, and you have to balance your energies. Your energies are all out of whack. If your energies were all right, you'd be in samadhi right now. That's another approach. They're not talking so much about God. They're not talking so much about your emotions and mind, but it's mostly a scientific, mystical approach, which says that if you sit straight and cross your legs in such and such a way, and you balance the energies, and the energies will rise and all of that, chakras, awakening the dormant faculties, Kundalini Yoga, Tantra. That's another approach. Your energies need to be balanced. If your energies are in balance, everything will work out just by itself. The master, the healer, can just lay hands on you, balance your energies, instant illumination. There are many schools that go by that technique. It's a valid technique. Some of us have had that kind of experience. Then there's another technique where they don't talk about any of these things. Talk about love. Just love, 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 love. If we could just open our hearts to love, everything would be all right. God is love, after all. The universe is pervaded with oceans and currents of love. And that's the heart chakra approach, more the heart chakra approach. Many people feel that that's it, the Christ's consciousness, selfless love. How many people like love, as a technique? See, everyone has their way. At least maybe for 10, 20 years. Maybe later on you'll change. You'll drift into something new as your heart chakra becomes stabilized. Maybe you'll say, well, now that I'm always in this infinite love, maybe there's more. Maybe there's the divine radiance, higher yet than love. Then there's the yoga school, Patanjali, the Kriya Yoga Sutras, the Raja Yoga Sutras. How many people have read Patanjali's Yoga Sutras? Everybody. God, somebody has to come up here and give this lecture. Oh, they're so educated, these people. Where did you learn all this stuff? Right here. Patanjali says, Yoga's chitta vritti nirodhaha. Yoga is stopping the mind. Just stop the mind, period. Just focus. Focus at one point. And you'll be in samadhi. That's it. And that's another approach. They don't talk about all of these other things. That's a valid approach too. And then there's this other approach which says that you are what you think. If you think something strongly enough, you will become that. The mind approach. Visualization is the technique. Affirmations. How many people know what affirmations are? Every day, in every way. I am affirming more and more. Because the universe is nothing but thoughts. Matter itself is really just materialized thoughts of the Creator. We are the Creator, so if we think a divine thought and hold to it and concentrate on it with duration and intensity, then it will become. And if we think something healthy and happy, then we'll get that. That's a whole other technique. How many people here have ever seen a water buffalo? There's a water buffalo story from India. You know the water buffalo story? You know it. The student approaches the teacher and says, I would like to learn to meditate. This is very important for me. Please teach me the technique. So the teacher is a very illustrious teacher, and he gives him the highest technique, figuring, let's not beat around the bush. So he gives him the technique. Just meditate that Aham Brahmasmi, I am the creative principle. I am the supreme. I am the light of lights, the son of suns. Go into your little shack there and meditate, and I'll come back and check you out in a little while. So the disciple goes in and starts meditating. Aham Brahmasmi, I am the infinite bliss. I am light. So he comes back to the teacher and he says, well, how did it go? He said, well, not so great. It's a little hard for me, and it's so abstract. Okay, let's see, what else could we give him? How about, that abstract stuff isn't very good. Let's give him a god, a mantra, and something to worship like Krishna. See that? I don't know if you can see that picture of Krishna. It's a very classical picture of Krishna with the legs crossed, holding the flute, wearing the yellow silken robe and the gem. Very beautiful. It's one of the most common images of Krishna. So he gives the disciple a little statue of Krishna, a murti of Krishna, a Krishna murti, and says, meditate on Krishna and repeat his sacred mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The student goes back, very excited. This is an amazing technique. Goes back, Om Namo Bhagavate. Too hard. Goes back to the teacher, says, my mind was so distracted. It's too tricky. All of the mantra and the statue, it's still too hard. So the guru is, God, this is not a class A disciple. This isn't even a class B disciple. What am I going to give this guy? He's got no concentration at all. He can't even think for a second without the mind going off in another direction. I said, geez, what does this guy do? What is this? And then he asks the disciple, what do you really love? And he says, well, Swamiji, I have a water buffalo that I am taking care of. I am loving very much. And the guru says, that's it. Go in the room, meditate on your water buffalo. If your mind wanders, bring the mind back to the water buffalo. Whatever happens, just focus on the water buffalo. And this disciple goes off 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. He's expecting the disciple back after an hour or two of meditating. The disciple never shows up. So he goes to the shack, Hello? Here's a water buffalo. And he says, wake up, come out of the meditation. Om, brings him out of meditation. He says, come out here, I want to speak to you. How did it go? And he hears this kind of noise, Come out, what's the matter? He says, oh, Swamiji, I cannot get my horns through the door. As you think, so you become. So he says, well, now meditate on the essence of the water buffalo. Now that you've developed this one-pointedness of mind, it was just a question of finding something that was suitable for you, but now you know what this one-pointedness of mind is. Now apply that mind and meditate on the essence of the water buffalo, and immediately the student becomes illumined. So as you think, so you become. If you think you're a jerk, you will be a jerk. If you think you are divine, if you think you really are part of God's creation, then you will be that. If you think you are a spirit, if you think you are a soul, and that your nature is divine, if you keep affirming that day after day after day after day, Aham Brahmasmi, I am in charge, I am divine, I am the creative principle, I am nice, I do like myself, all of that will come about with the intensity that you apply to it. And if you think you're a water buffalo, you'll be a water buffalo. That's the mind power technique, the technique of visualization and affirmation. So which is the real technique? What's the real thing? Well, the real meditation technique, please stand up. Which is the real one? The meditator. But these techniques all have one thing in common. I have a little Gemini in me, so I tend to want to get the picture, the big picture sort of thing, and then figure out what do they have in common. And they all have in common that in the meditative state, the mind has formed a continuous groove, continuous, uninterrupted flow of awareness on something. It could be on the image of Krishna, it could be on the breath, it could be on the buffalo. But ultimately, it's the awareness itself, the continuity of awareness that keeps cutting down the same groove, same groove, same groove, same groove, more and more intensity, more and more focus, more and more focus, a one-pointedness of mind. Till eventually that groove becomes like the Grand Canyon, and you, as soon as you sit to meditate, boom, whoops. There were these people who lived in the forest, and they were hunters, and they We're getting together one day for coffee down at the local place, and they said, "Did you see that animal in the tree yesterday? The brightest red I ever saw. It had big, long tail, funny legs." "Oh, I saw something like that," the other guy says, "but it was green. It was on this green tree, and it was green, and it was just like you said." And so they start getting into this argument, and then another person comes in and says, "Well, I saw it was more this kind of sandy rust color. I saw it on one of those sandy rust colored trees. But it was kind of lizard, had the tongue and the tail and everything." So they got into a big argument, and finally someone came along and said, "I know, let's go ask that guy who lives out in the woods. He lives out in the woods all the time. He's always in the woods. He must have seen that thing. He must know what its real color is like, what it really looks like, whether it's really brown or green or blue or whatever it is." So they go out to the forest, and there's this fellow sitting under the tree meditating, and they interrupt him for a second. "Oh, sage, would you tell us, please, what is this funny thing we've seen walking around and climbing the trees, and we see it and it's all different colors all the time?" And the sage says, "Oh, that's a chameleon. That's its nature." They say, "What's its nature? Is it red or green or blue?" They say, No. That's its nature, that it's always changing. Taking on different forms, depending on the situation. So they had to ask the person who was really intimate with the critter, who really knew what its real nature was, a person who was always in communion with that animal. And the Chinese have chosen another symbol which is very similar. Have you ever seen the dragons, the Chinese embroideries? Constantly, the dragon is always changing form, swirling in the clouds. Sometimes you can see it and it's covered by mist, and then all of a sudden the tail will come out and the head, and it'll shoot flames, and then it's gone again. They're talking about the changing nature of truth, the changing nature of spirit. It appears to different people in different ways. And in the same way, meditation techniques are different for different people. Different cultures will have different meditation techniques. One of the reasons that I was always so happy with the yoga philosophy and with the temple here is that we have a certain amount of freedom in that we're not really trying to say, "Oh, this is the only way. You must, stick your finger in your ear and go like that." And this technique was developed in Pennsylvania, and it's it. The yoga approach says, find out what the essence is. Learn what's really going on. Learn the mechanics. And so in meditation we talk about several different things, and I'm going to go back over some of these approaches and just say, there's the breath. We work with the breath. Some people like that, and that's all they do. And that's a technique we're going to do today. We're going to teach a technique called Anapanasati, Anapana Vipassana meditation. It's a Buddhist practice. It just means observing your breath, experiencing your breath. It's a real simple one. Some people are happy with mantras. Some people are happy with, shucks, there's more than that. Let's see, where's my list? Oh, I forgot to write them all down. What else is there? Breath, mantra, visualization, the chakras, working with the chakras, the heart, opening the heart. Another one, observing the mind, just watching the mind, and many others that you all know about. But key among all of these, there's three problems with the mind. What do you think they are? Here's another little piece of Hindu wisdom, the Virgos that have divided everything up. The 3 this is, the 5 that's, the 12 so-and-sos. They have something called the 3 malas. Could you show us your mala beads there for a second? You have mala beads? Mala means impurities. And so the mala beads are used to cleanse the impurities from the mind. They say there are three malas, three impurities of the mind. Anybody like to guess one of them? There are just 3 things wrong with your mind or my mind. I'll give you a discount. How about 2? 2 out of 3 ain't bad. How about 1? You'll probably think of it when you try to meditate. Restlessness, that's right. Tossing, turning of the mind. That's one of the problems. Of course, now you may not agree with these three things because it's not the absolute truth. We're not claiming this is it. But this is a nice little thing I picked up in a book. Another one is ignorance, avidya. Would you like the Sanskrit names? They're nice. Tossing is called vikshepa, V-I-K-S-H-E-P-A, vikshepa. They say the mind has vikshepa shakti, or tossing power. Like the dragon, always changing. And then the next one is ignorance, or avidya. And what do we mean by ignorance? How should I know? And selfishness is the third one. Selfishness. Which in Sanskrit is called avarana, or they also call it the veiling power, avarana. And here it means that your sense of identity has been limited. They've thrown 100 blankets over you, and so you think all you are is just this little unit. I'm in my body, I'm locked in my body, this is me. I'm 30 years old, I live in Pennsylvania, and I go to work and I do this, and this is me, this is the universe. I'm not part of everything. It's also called selfishness, too. It has two sides. And all the techniques in meditation and the spiritual life are designed to remove those three obstacles, to remove the selfishness, to remove the ignorance and the tossing. A lot of times you can't meditate because you're thinking about something and somebody's made you angry or you regret something. Ever try to meditate and you can't get something off your mind? That's when these problems come in. There's also 5 states of mind. Anybody like to take a guess at what these 5 states are? They say, at any given time, your mind can be in 5 different states of mind. Sleeping. That's the first one. It's called the dull state, or sleeping state. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. Sleeping state, dull, slothful. In the Buddhist terms, they use the image of a pig. They have these 3 critters that they use, the pig, the rooster, and the snake. The pig symbolizes the dull ignorance, just blindly, where am I? What's going on here? Yeah. Somebody tells you shouldn't do that, you're going to hurt yourself. I don't care. The next state is called a scattered state of mind. Anybody ever experienced that?
There's something else.
There's something other than dullness, yeah. Scattered. Gathering is the next state. There are all these Sanskrit words for that. If you like, I can give them to you later. The gathering state comes next. Now the mind is starting to take the rays, which are going off in random directions. This thought for 1 second, that thought for a half a second. Oh, what about yesterday? I should. And then, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we had some ice cream right now? Oh, and then mind's constantly, it starts going from that, starts turning around and starts to gather. And then comes one-pointedness, ekagrata state, the one-pointedness state, which is not the final state. The mind starts cutting that channel. Mind starts going back into the same groove over and over and over again. And each time the mind goes away from that state, it's, oh yeah, back into the groove, boom, boom, boom. And then comes the suspended state, niruddha, where the thought waves are suspended completely. There's no more bouncing around. And that's the goal, is to take the mind from that dull state and bring it through all these intermediate states, and then bring it to one-pointedness, and then to maybe a few moments of that total suspension of mind waves. And so that's why Patanjali says, Yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is suspending the waves totally, just like a clear lake, clear pond. So my definition of meditation is unbroken awareness, continuous awareness. Now, I went into the kitchen before. I brought this bottle of oil with me because I've read in the books, it is like the flow of oil continuous from pouring from one vessel to another. So I brought some oil with me today. I have it in my bag. And I thought, that would be so nice to do that. And I tried it, and I got it all over the glass. And it went glug, 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 glug. And that was just what I was trying to avoid. So I don't have the right vessel. So maybe some other time later on we can try it. But I did bring the oil. But just imagine it. Continuous stream. Perfectly continuous. It's different than water. If you pour water, it has a different quality. There's something about that oil-like quality which just keeps on going on and on and on. And it doesn't make it, the drops don't fly off to the side. It's just perfectly together, uniform. Or another analogy is like a record in a record player. You have the phonograph needle. You put it down, and it just stays in that groove. On and on and on. It never bounces out. It just keeps going forward, 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 down the groove, on and on and on and on and on like that, except when it skips every once in a while. Anybody's mind skip? Anybody skip here? And it keeps going back into the same thought. You say, hey, you put the mind back. It keeps going back in that same thought over and over and over again. And so meditation has this very special benefit. It's not just that you're going to sit and meditate and get high and be blissed out forever, although that's nice. But it also teaches you in the meantime how to manage your thoughts, how to manage intrusive thoughts, nasty thoughts, negative thoughts, regrets, fears. It's not that you want to avoid them. It's that you learn how to gently just go over to that needle and just tap it, and then it goes back in the groove again. You heard that phrase 12 times already. You've memorized that little piece of music. You've learned your lesson. And now you can put the needle back in the groove, and then it continues to go on and on like that without any interruption. One thing that's very helpful for getting the mind to stay in the groove is rhythm. Any musician will tell you, anybody who likes music, everybody likes music. Rhythm, you might not love music, you may not be a musician, but everyone will know that rhythm affects you. So I brought my little metronome here, which I bought. You were talking about learning hypnosis. I wanted to teach myself self-hypnosis, so I bought these tapes, and the guy was using a metronome, and all he was doing to put himself into to induce the trance, I noticed, was that he was talking more or less with the beat. And they can put a whole room full of people, they get them all, their brainwaves synchronized. And everybody's saying, yes, 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 yes. And so I said, well, shoot, I'm not going to buy all of those things. I'm just going to go out and get myself a metronome and do it myself. And then I decided, well, shoot, I don't want to just make $1 million. I'll see what else I can do with this. So I experimented with the different speeds and different sounds. And there's a certain kind of speed, like this is about 50, which they call in Italian, they call largo, which means a long music, long phrases. Is that too loud? Just close your eyes for a second and just observe, what does this do to you? And then as we speed it up a little bit, what happens to your mind? What happens to your breath? What happens to your body? See, that's a different effect. Anybody like to say what they experienced? Anybody? What happened? Anything? Something? Yeah.
I felt like my heart was going with it in the beginning.
Mm.
And then as it got faster and faster, it started kind of annoying.
Yeah. It's jarring, it makes you want to get up and dance. It's activating your physical body instead of your subtle bodies. Because they're all at different rhythms, different speeds, different vibratory rates, If you ever notice when you go to if you were watching television or in a movie and the sinister criminal comes in, all of a sudden you get all this low bass music, and you'll get a percussion effect that's boom, 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 boom. Something's about to happen. Boom. Rhythm and speed have a very large impact on your brain waves, on your mind, on your subtle bodies. So we use the breath. We use mantra. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And you find this in all cultures. If you go and look at Indians in Alaska, they'll have this little drum, they'll be sitting. Did you ever see that? Did you see that movie Never Cry Wolf? It takes place out in the remote areas of Alaska. And there's a really beautiful character in the film who's a sage, an Indian sage. And you see him, there's one scene I'll never forget. He's just sitting out there in the tall grass, just surrounded by the open spaces, beating his drum. Boom, 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 boom. He's in a high meditation. Just putting the mind in the groove, keeping the mind in the groove. So what I'd like to do is have everyone do a real simple meditation technique. Oh, well, maybe there are some questions here. I don't know if I'm going a little fast here. What time is it? 2. Or less. People have some questions about any of the things I've said or comments? Yeah.
Can you, when you're going to do this, how best to determine the method that will suit ourselves as individuals?
Yeah. Well, for that, it's best to have a teacher. If you don't have a teacher, pray a lot and ask to be shown, for it to be revealed to you. If you're in a situation where you can't find somebody who's more aware than you are, who can get an impression of you and your soul and what's best for you. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody has to have their own designer technique that's just specifically made for them. Later on, if you I'm just trying to think the best way to put it. What I would recommend, of course, is speak to Kriyananda or speak to your teacher, speak to your guru, whoever it is. Consult someone who's higher up than you. And I'm not giving all the techniques. Also, I just like to put in a little thing here about some of the Kriya techniques that I have found very helpful. I'm not a disciple, and I'm not really officially. I'm talking now about. I'm giving an overview, but some of the Kriya techniques combine many of these things, combine breath, combine visualization, mantra, all of that. So sometimes it's not just a question of one alone. Am I a breath person or am I a music person? Sometimes you'll find that techniques have been developed that combine many of the approaches into one technique. And even though you might not feel so suited to mantra in the beginning, you might find after practicing one of these combination techniques, like the Kriya techniques, that you might find, well, I really do like mantra. So that's why it's better to have a spiritual preceptor give you the technique, or someone more advanced than you. Is that all right? Is that a good answer? Okay.
Nandala